Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Back for 2024 on this Monday, the 15th of January. We are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube channel, the Wilmsfront Odyssey channel. Still have problems with Rumble this year. I couldn't get it to work on the return of Wilmsfront last night. A lot of you didn't get the notification wanting me to be on the air on a Sunday night, but the live replay is up. My conversation with Senator Damien Ferry going through the 2023 Unshackler Award nominees. It is 9 p.m. here in Victoria, where the global boiling has finally close to 30 degrees yesterday and today, and it's expected to peak above 30, though it's not a scorcher here in anywhere in Australia. It's over 40 degrees. So very for a dry Nino summer, yet we experienced over here on Eastern a very stormy and rainy Aussie men. If please let me know because my connection isn't there. Having some connection issues so far, so please let me know in the comments if the audio goes robotically, and hopefully that is all better now. So, as I was saying, the Bureau of Meteorology forecast a dry El Nino summer, yet we experienced a stormy and rainy Christmas and New Year here in Eastern Australia. It followed me on my trip to Adelaide. So the last 2 nights there, it just rained and rained and rained. We over here in the eastern states, there were 10 Australians killed by floodwaters or by falling trees in thunderstorms. Though back here in Melbourne, it has been a terrifying, and certainly not in a good way, into 2023 and 2024 with fire bombings all across the city, primarily at tobacco stores. But just before Christmas, Tim Lutze, who is the owner of the National Socialist Network gym in Sunshine, which Antifa and socialist activists have been trying to get him, he and the NSN evicted from a commercial premise, trying to get the Bring Back Council to get in some resolution to kick them off private property. 2 days before Christmas, 2 masked people set fire to his pregnant wife's car and then ran off. And as of nearly a month later, these terrorists are still at large. Victoria Police haven't apprehended them, and Tim Lutze has had to move house for his and his family's safety. And the scary thing will be that if Victoria Police don't catch these terrorists, because, well, they just can't do it or they just don't have the will, this will set a precedent that Antifa and socialist groups will believe, wow, we got away committing a terrorist act against a neo-Nazi. We can probably get away with doing it again. And so this was, now I don't know much about Tim Lutze, his personality. Obviously, he helps train the National Socialist Network members. So obviously, a very fit and able-bodied man. This was him speaking to Thomas Sewell, he's one of the leaders of the National Socialist Network, Jacob Hirschner, who's now allowed to associate with the National Socialist Network. He is actually the founder and leader, but this was Tim Lutze the day after.
Last night, left-wing terrorists firebombed my pregnant wife's car while we were sleeping in the middle of the night. Through Molotov cocktails, other ones were found in the front yard. My children were sleeping inside at the time, were woken up by it. Neighbours come running out in the street and they just basically ran off into the night. These people have no honour attacking a home where children and a pregnant woman is sleeping. I found 2 other firebombs in my front yard that hadn't broken up and gone off properly. Thank God. Fire spread to the fence of the house and could have got very bad very fast. Yeah. It's lucky a close community here. All the neighbours came out and helped. And it'll be interesting to see how the police act. The media play a role in this as well with all their scaremongering. The media pushing this narrative that we're violent, that we're terrorists, when we're literally the polar opposite of that. We remain peaceful at all times, only to have terrorism committed against us. Don't let these anti-fascist terrorists intimidate you into inaction. Stay staunch, continue the fight. Hail victory, blood and honour. Australia for the white man.
And so, as I said, the Victoria Police still haven't apprehended these left-wing terrorists. And Victoria Police, even if they don't like the National Socialist Network, you can't have in a suburban western suburb street in the middle of the night a car being set on fire, because as Tim said, all of the neighbors turned out to see what was wrong, and they would have been scared. What's going on? I can't believe that this is happening in my neighborhood. I mean, they probably don't know much about Tim Lutze's politics. I mean, you would be you would be scared if there was a car set on fire in your street, even if it wasn't targeted at you. Now, the mainstream media, their headline was National Socialist Network member runs to police after car bombing. Well, that's what you do after your property has been torched by terrorists. And you'd be pissed off if your car was torched. So there has been a crowdfunder on Give Send Go that has been put up, which the Antifa, particularly slack bastard, hate that Give Send Go allow the National Socialist Network to crowdfund, and particularly that it's 8,000 Australian dollars has been raised. So it was created by Thomas Sewell. That says, help the white Australian community have an internal home. My intention was to make this fundraiser in the new year. Instead, I'm making it on Christmas Day due to a terrorist attack against one of our families yesterday in the early hours of Christmas Eve. It has become evident that the state-backed terrorism is being used against our community for the explicit stand white Australia and other peoples around the world. Police and media are bearing the bombing of our families because it is in the system's interest to terrorize white people who advocate for whites. We are European descendant people living in Australia, building a physical and politicized white Australian community. Our mission is simple: the preservation and advancement of white people in Australia. Our initial goal is to build a flagship of our parallel society model in Victoria, Australia, for the purpose of securing safe and independent living space for our families. Now, the Antifa socialists, they hate it when somebody like Thomas Sowell at the NSN talk about living space, because there's a German translation of Lebensraum, which is what Hitler talked about in Mein Kampf. We are scouting rural property with fertile soil and clean water systems to sustain the foundation wave of up to a dozen families in homesteading. And I won't go through the full of it, but you get the plan as well. I know that YouTube, it's like last night, it doesn't send out the notifications properly. So a lot of our regulars are slow to trickle in. Peak Aussie Man was the first. Ron Nielsen, good to see you again. You were there last night as well. We also had the death of a much beloved suburban GP after he decided to, 33-year-old Dr. Ash Gordon, chase home invaders who stole shoes, laptop from his property, and they're investigating whether he has sadly died, whether he was stabbed, hit by a car, so sustained a fatal injuries. And Doncaster is in Melbourne's east. It's kind of an affluent area, which these would not be locals. These home invaders. Hopefully, they are caught, and they have made the home invaders a fatal error as well. I mean, they tend to get off lightly, a lot of these carjackers and home invaders, but if you murder somebody, then you certainly go away, we hope, for at least a decade. So that's been happening. I also mentioned Melbourne is the hotbed of the illicit tobacco wars, because the government's jacked up the tax so much that it's called chop chop. Organised criminal gangs are torching each other's tobacco stores for control. Obviously, in Sydney, it's the cocaine capital of Australia. The Middle Eastern crime families are shooting each other for control over the city's cocaine trade. And again, this is just prohibition leading to violence and death. I mean, we had those 9 overdoses of that dodgy MDMA at that music festival. And we had the new single-use vape importation ban come in January 1. So there'll also be vaping wars as well. I mean, at least it gives the Australian Federal Police a lot to do, and it allows them to justify their budget and asking for more money. In my opinion, they should concentrate on real criminals, such as international pedophiles and those who trade child pornography. Now, to top it all off, we had another race riot in St Albans in Melbourne's west, and this time it wasn't, well, last year the most famous race riot was between the Sikhs and the Hindus in the Melbourne CBD, when the Sikhs were holding that fake referendum to have a independent Khalistan state in India, in the Punjab province. bringing their grievances here. This time it was a African civil war spilling over here into the streets of Melbourne. This was the 7 News report.
At a St Alban's reception centre,
Stop, please.
a fight erupts between two groups on either side of the property's fence and either side of a political regime in Africa. From peaceful to violent in a flash. A fence torn down, windows smashed, blood everywhere. 10 people taken to hospital.
Just all running at them, swinging flags, throwing bricks, pretty much anything they could do.
Inside the building, an Eritrean community group. Those outside claim that same group supports a dictatorship in Eritrea. Was it supposed to turn violent?
No, it wasn't supposed to turn violent.
Senate Habtemariam was one of the protesters outside. Government officials and police met with Eritrean leaders here to avoid violence, but it blew up anyway.
I did not take a weapon with me. None of us took weapons with us. We went there to demonstrate to call for human rights, so we can't be going there taking weapons.
Eritrea is in eastern Africa, near the Red Sea. There has never been an election. President Afwerki has been in power 30 years.
It's a very corrupt and dictatorial regime, so that's just stifling economic development.
It's considered the North Korea of Africa.
At one of these community meetings in Melbourne last year, children were dressed in military clothing and paraded with guns. The community group didn't respond to our inquiries. There have been similar Eritrean protests in Canada and Israel.
Countries that have taken in the Eritrean refugees over the last 30 years have found those refugees being intimidated by the government back home.
With the broken wall, torn down fences and 8 smashed windows, the owner estimates damage here to be about $40,000. And they're madly cleaning up inside because tonight they have another function for Vietnamese New Year. The venue was booked just a day in advance. Activists tried to have the event cancelled.
We tried to warn, but the venue didn't want to listen to us, and the people that were conducting the event did it in hiding, and then something happened that we were trying to avoid.
Police have plenty of work ahead in this case. More than 100 people were involved in the violence. The venue has security cameras, but I'm told the hard drive was broken, so much of that violence wasn't captured properly. There have been no charges yet, and of the 10 taken to hospital, 6 are still there tonight. Beck?
Blake Johnson reporting live. Thank you.
Now, we've previously had violence in years past at Melbourne at Sudanese basketball competitions and at beauty contests. So sadly, this type of intersectarian violence has come to Melbourne in previous years, and it's certainly no more welcome than it was before. Now, it is 11 days until Australia Day, January 26th, though the defeat of the Aboriginal voice referendum last year convincingly still hasn't deterred the annual Australia Day campaigners, and they do have an ally in the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. He says his government has no plans to move Australia Day from January 26th. But we all know that if he and Labor could get away with moving the date from January 26th, they would. Their actions speak louder than words, with the Albanese government revoking the rule that local governments must hold citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day. They, of course, hold citizenship ceremonies on other dates throughout the year. So at last count, 81 councils announced they wouldn't hold citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day. Though it can be argued we don't need any more new Australian citizens. I mean, I just showed you how one group of new Australians has brought their grievance here. They're not the only ones. I've mentioned the others. We are still in a cost of living and housing crisis. The mass immigration Ponzi scheme is, well, it's the only thing that is fudging the GDP numbers. We're in a per capita recession. We're getting poorer per capita. as Pete Ozyman says, they'd abolish Australia Day and replace it with Pride Day and NAIDOC Week. And you make the point, Pete Ozyman, it is NAIDOC Week. That gets a whole week. And then there's also Reconciliation Week as well. And then there's in the month of June in the Northern Hemisphere is obviously LGBT Pride Month. But in the month of February, in the lead up to the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras, there is all of the Pride paraphernalia everywhere. So sadly, that is coming back again. Now, there is one local council which is definitely going to have citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day, and that is the city of Perth with their celebrity maverick mayor, Basil Zempalis, who many AFL fans might know that he used to commentate the games on Channel 7. He read the Channel 7 sports news for 20 years, ran for mayor of Perth in 2020, re-elected in 2023. He's not woke, not PC. There are rumours that he may be seeking Liberal pre-selection to run in the 2025 WA state election. So he said that not the city of Perth. It is the job of the federal parliament to decide when Australia Day will be observed, not of local councils, until such time as the federal parliament changes the date. We will continue to reflect, respect, and celebrate as is appropriate on January 26 in Perth, and proudly so. We are mindful of community conversations and sentiments, but the decision to allow councils to effectively pick their own date goes completely against what a national day should be and do. It should bring us together, not push us apart. Now, there should be a community note on that it's actually the government that gazettes January 26 as Australia Day. There's no federal legislation to enshrine Australia Day as January 26. So Albanese could cancel it if he wanted to. And Basil Zempalis, he also, in response to various retailers not stocking Australia Day merchandise or Australian flagged national products in the lead up to Australia Day. Basil Zempalis said, this is precisely the issue. The PM claims he has no ulterior motive over Australia Day, yet allowing councils to make their own choice over the date for their events, knowing full well that many of them will choose not to conduct them on January 26. He encourages other organizations to actively diminish January 26 also. This is not leadership. This is a disingenuous bet each way, a cop-out. If you want to change the date, PM, lead that change. Otherwise, tell everyone to get behind January 26 exactly. We have seen that the Labor government here in Victoria have permanently cancelled the Australia Day parade, although I went to it in 2018 and it had become basically almost like an opening ceremony with all of the all of the different nationalities marching, and the MC would be, here's the Filipino Australians, here's the Nepalese Australians, and then there was also Miss Transsexual Australia. So there was also the LGBT alphabet floats as well. And Dan Andrews, he marched in it as well. That was before the COVID lockdowns where he couldn't show his face in public. And now the people who gather in the CBDs and rage about Invasion Day because the Melbourne CBD, it's a no-go zone for Australian flags on January 26th. The Invasion Day mob of savages, they control the Melbourne CBD, facilitated by the state government, City of Melbourne and Victoria Police. Remember, Ricky T on Australia Day 2019 almost got lynched by the Invasion Day mob. In 2020, Neil Erickson was physically removed from that same Flinders Street Steps by Victoria Police for also carrying the Australian flag, the same one that Ricky T had the year before. And remember, these people, they're not just about abolishing or changing the date. They want to abolish the date because they believe that Australia has a shameful history. Remember back in Australia Day 2018 that Tarneen Onus Williams, or she's now known as Tarneen Onus Brown and uses they them pronouns, she told the crowd, "Fuck Australia, hope it fucking burns to the ground." And then after the Australia Day parade, she was allowed to she and the Invasion Day mob were allowed to march forward, and she had the megaphone screaming in the people there who'd gathered for the Australia Day parade, "Shame." I remember last Australia Day in the Melbourne CBD, most of them are white. There was a Thai immigrant wearing an Australian flag shirt, and one of the white Invasion Day protesters with a megaphone got up in her face with a megaphone and said, "Shame," or she might identify as an Aboriginal. I don't know. Now, the reason why it must be defended is because January 26th, that's when Governor Arthur Phillip planted the British Union Jack on Sydney Cove, did land on Botany Bay on January 18th, but it wasn't decided it wasn't an appropriate place to disembark, so it went over to Sydney Cove. But so if the date was moved, then commemorating the beginning of the Australian project, you would be cancelled and socially orchestrated. And Mark Latham, when he was with Rebel Australia back in 2018, launched the Save Australia Day campaign, which was fronted by Jacinta Price. It was about a dystopia where you're not allowed to speak about Australia Day, January 26th. It was called absurd because of the dystopia, but I'm going to play it for you now. I reckon if the date was moved, this is how unspeakable January 26th Australia Day would be.
Mommy, look what I
made. Have you shown anyone else this, darling?
No, I just made it.
Okay, love, what can I get you?
I'll have 6 kilos of sausages and 3 dozen lamb chops, please.
Do you want something tomorrow?
Oh, no. This is just for the weekend. I'll be going to work tomorrow like everybody else.
Well, have a good day at work then.
Thank you.
Happy Australia Day, Josie. Cheers, mate.
Talking about the good old days again, were you?
Australia Day is under serious threat. Changing Australia Day doesn't change the lives of Aboriginal people in remote communities. We have to come together as a nation to solve these critical issues and do it proactively. Save Australia Day. It'll be a sad day if we lose it.
Now, this ad was made before COVID. Given that we have more surveillance and smart technology, it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility Now, Peak Ozyman says, celebrating Australia Day, that's a reduction in your allotment of rations, is it? I mean, that could be those two old guys who secretly celebrate Australia Day. That could be us in 50 years if nothing changes. Now, a group of patriots, rather than be on the defensive the entire time, trying to save January 26th as Australia Day, why not have the whole of January as Australia Month, given that January 1, 1901 was the date when Australia federated. Obviously, Arthur Phillip, Botany Bay, January 18th. And so Ben Shand, the Dusty Bogan, who is now on Twitter X as Bogan Christian Lobby. Should I read it in his voice? Australia has a lot to be proud of. Our civic, music, food, art, fashion, sports, and inventions are unique and deserve to be celebrated. We propose that the Australian government officially recognise January as Australia Month. The month already holds significant meaning for Australians. It's when we celebrate Federation Day and Australia Day. By declaring the entire month of as Australia Month, we can extend these celebrations throughout January. This will not only boost national pride, but also increase awareness of our cultural heritage, both domestically and internationally. Many different groups worldwide have a dedicated month to recognize their demographic or group. It is time for Australians to have theirs too. Let's start each year positively by celebrating what makes us uniquely Australian. Please sign this petition and urge our government to make this change happen. How was my Bogan accent there? Ron Nielsen says, isn't he a Kiwi? Yes, he is. And so is Thomas Sewell. I'm not sure about Dusty Bogan, whether he still says fifth and sixth as fifth and sixth. But I noticed in a video, Thomas Sewell still pronounced fifth and sixth, the New Zealander pronunciation, not fifth and sixth like we do as well. Now, Dusty will be my guest on Wilmsfront next Sunday at 9 p.m. on the Wilmsfront channels, where we'll talk a lot more about Australia Month. Now, if you're wanting to purchase Australian patriotic products, but don't want to buy something made in China, you can get a high-quality Australian flag from flagworld.com.au, also known as Carolyn Richardson. That's where my Australian flag that you've seen displayed on my streams over the years. I've got to make sure that I hold it the right way here. So I actually got this over a decade ago. This Australian flag, made in Australia. It's lasted over a decade. And they make any flag. They even made Australian Meditation's anti-Chinese Eureka flag, even though they probably thought it was a racist flag. So they make high-quality, long-lasting Australian flags. So flagworld.com.au is where you can get Australian-made Australian flags. Now, on to new laws that have been passed, which are genuinely a shame to this nation. So on January the 8th this year, the federal Counter-Terrorism Legislation Amendment Prohibited Hate Symbols and Other Measures Act came into effect. So this bans nationwide, including on the internet, so including on live streams such as this, bans the display of the Nazi swastika, the double sig rune, and the salute. and also the symbols of prohibited terrorist organizations, because the National Socialist Network, for example, is not a prescribed terrorist organization, because, well, they don't advocate for political violence and terrorism, so they had to make a special provision to ban the Nazi swastika, double signal, and salute. So the only exemption from the 1 year imprisonment is for professional journalists. So I should be covered by this if I'm reporting on somebody who's displayed the swastika or Nazi salute for artistic and educational purposes that are deemed to be in the public interest. So there's this arbitrary public interest test. Or if the symbol displayed or the Nazi salute is made in opposition to Nazism or the terrorist organization, and the trading of Nazi memorabilia is also banned. So Basil Fawlty, the Basil Fawlty moustache salute and walk, that's still okay. And obviously history documentaries and textbooks, but it's ridiculous that the laws even have to have a carve out for these. Now, the reason why they've also banned the salute and swastika is because National Socialism cannot be banned outright under the Australian Constitution, because Sir Robert Menzies tried to ban the Communist Party of Australia in the 50s. It was ruled unconstitutional by the High Court. He tried to have a referendum to constitutionally ban the Communist Party. It failed because, well, even during the Red Menace of the 50s, the Australian people weren't prepared to forego political principles in a fit of moral panic. And this is a textbook example of moral panic. And of course, Devere Abramovich of the Anti-Defamation Commission, he is... You have to give him credit. He is one of the most effective moral panickers that probably Australia has ever seen. He, because of the Carols by Candlelight pro-Palestine interruption protest and Boxing Day at Chadstone, he wanted there to be a state of emergency declared in Victoria because of anti-Semitism. And he always talks about being verbally attacked. You know, I felt like my heart had been ripped out, punched in the stomach. I mean, how many times has he said he's been verbally assaulted by a salute or a swastika or something? And now what carries a 5-year prison sentence is the possession, viewing, transmission of violent extremist material. So the definition includes material that describes or depicts serious violence, or, remember, it's crucial if it's an and or an or, provides instruction on engaging in serious violence, or supports or facilitates serious violence, and a reasonable person would consider that the material is intended to directly or indirectly advance a political, religious, or ideological cause, and intended to assist, encourage, or induce a person to engage in, plan, or prepare for an intimidatory act, or do thing that it relates in engaging, planning, or preparing for an intimidatory act, or join or associate with an organization that is directly engaged in doing of any of the intimidatory act, or is preparing, planning, and assisting, fostering the doing of an intimidatory act, and as reasonable consider the material together with other material, all of the material to be taken as a single item of material, it would constitute violent extremist material. Now, we see these laws in operation over in the UK. A guest on Williams Front last year, the Reverend James Costello, he is currently serving a 5-year prison sentence because the UK government was able to convince their buddies in the court that he possessed extremist material because of his pro-white Christian creativity religious belief. And so they will certainly what they'll do is they'll try and get a reason to raid a high-profile nationalist or national socialist, get all of their devices and try and find if they've got some maybe the 88 precepts on their computer. They can deem that violent extremist material. The Osama bin Laden's letter to America that recently went viral with those moronic TikTokers, that could be considered violent extremist material as well. I mean, is footage of the Twin Towers going to be the planes going through the Twin Towers on 9/11. If you have that on your computer, is that considered extremist material, given that the news, all of the news broadcasted, it's available on YouTube. I mean, are we going to see the e-safety commissioner, Julie Imam Grant, issue more takedown notices to YouTube, X, Facebook, you name it? And so this was a bipartisan bill, and in fact, it was the Liberal Party that lobbied for the Nazi salute to be included in the federal legislation, even though Attorney General Mark Dreyfus, Jewish himself, said that state laws are sufficient. And you can say now that the Liberal Party, they no longer believe in free speech, given that Peter Dutton doesn't believe Australia's hate speech and vilification laws do not go far enough, and said that taxpayers should fund Jewish groups' civil vilification cases under 18C, which Tony Abbott, when he was opposition leader, vowed to repeal after Andrew Bolt was found to have breached 18C for his articles about light-skinned Aboriginals only identifying with their Aboriginality. Though Malcolm Turnbull, he was the Prime Minister who tried to get it before pass the repeal, got it before the Senate, and it was blocked by the Senate. And George Brandis told the Senate, people have the right to be bigots. Well, not according to the Liberal Party now. We have to celebrate that Australia's the most successful multicultural nation on earth. And Michaela Cash, the Shadow Attorney General, this was how she described the most extreme anti-free speech laws that have ever been passed in Australia.
The Coalition will be moving an amendment to allow for a review of these laws, which in our view should be conducted by a preeminent member of the Jewish community to ensure that these laws are doing what they are meant to do. We may well find as a result, of that review, that these narrow laws as drafted by the government need to be expanded to properly deal with anti-Semitism in Australia.
So there should be a hand-pick preeminent Jewish Australian who should be brought in from outside to review. Isn't it the role of Parliament to review laws, and then the public can make submissions? And now we recently had the vilification fines beefed up in New South Wales as well, and because apparently there's not enough prosecutions of people who have deemed to have intentionally or recklessly threaten or incite violence towards another person or group because of their race, religious belief, or affiliation, sexual orientation, gender identity, intersex status, or living with HIV/AIDS. So they Attorney General Michael Daly is going to make it so that the police don't have to get the permission of the DPP, because the goal of these laws is, well, more prosecutions. And even though nobody nobody supports political violence or incitement to violence, the way that these laws are written is that they can claim that if you said something that was considered offensive or hate speech against any of those groups, they could claim that you were intentionally or recklessly threatening or inciting violence, even though you didn't explicitly say that. And of course, down in Victoria, they're going to expand the Racial and Religious Tolerance Act to include LGBTQ plus vilification to stop protests against drag queen storytime events. Now, we are going to be having a by-election down at my end of Melbourne and the seat of Dunkley, which is around Frankston. And because of the death of the MP Peter Murphy of breast cancer. Now, the Labor candidate, we can breathe a sigh of relief that Dan Andrews is not the Labor candidate. It is Jodie Bealey, who is basically a Peter Murphy clone, working on women's issues. The Liberal Party on Sunday pre-selected Nathan Conroy, who is the mayor of Frankston, 31 years old, described as popular. His ads popped up during the 2020 local government elections all over my feed. So certainly a real go-getter campaigner, which is all you could do during that COVID election, just through ads on social media. It was a mail-in ballot local government. Though the Liberal Party got to make sure that there's no dual citizenship issues because he was born and raised in Cork in Ireland. I originally thought he had a speech impediment, but it's actually his mixed Irish-Australian accent. He's got a wife and a newborn baby, so certainly his life is set up for him. He's already achieved being the mayor of Frankston. Though he does appear to be a moderate because he supported the city of Frankston celebrating Ida Hobbit Day. So we don't know when the Dunkley by-election will be. Probably late February, early March. The Speaker, Milton Dick, will decide it. We do have this year, as I mentioned, the Victorian local government elections in October. There is the Queensland local government elections in March. There is the Queensland state election on October 26th, which there's a new premier over the Christmas period, Stephen Miles, after Anastasia Palaszczuk decided to retire. We all know she was tapped on the shoulder by the unions, convinced she wouldn't win the next election, so they got their man in, Stephen Miles. Natasha Files resigned as Northern Territory chief minister because of, she said, undisclosed shares, but because she was so unpopular because of her mishandling of the Northern Territory crime crisis. And you remember she was famously cream frapped in the face by an angry Darwin constituent over crime and COVID vaccine mandate. So Eva Lawler is the new chief minister. So the polls are looking like that in Queensland, the Liberal National Party under David Crisafulli, he will win, and the Country Liberal Party and the Northern Territory will win. So the current leader is Leah Ficciario. I probably mispronounced that. So that'll be on August 24. The ACT state election on 19th of October. Andrew Barr's the only COVID state or territory leader remaining. ACT is a one-party state, so Andrew Barr will get re-elected. There could be a possible Tasmanian state election this year, not due until May next year, though it is a minority government with Jeremy Rockcliffe lost 2 Liberal MPs, though the next Tasmanian state parliament. It expands from 25 to 35 seats, could be a hung parliament, with the Jackie Lambie network polling at 20%. Rip the AFL Hobart Stadium, given that at a rally, she said, "You can stick the stadium right up your bum." All right, let's move on to global issues. So the COVID fear merchants, they got excited over a new Omicron subvariant, JN1. And apparently this is the most infectious variant yet, not because people aren't testing like they used to, though. Before Christmas, a lot of places sold out of rapid antigen tests again, because it's still programmed in people's minds, because they're seeing family for Christmas. Oh, I don't want to give COVID to grandmother and kill her. I better rat test myself before I go there. Though, if grandma did get COVID at Christmas and then died, she's probably lived long enough. I mean, because the average age of death from COVID is 85, when the average life expectancy in Australia is 84. And so if they die from COVID, if they didn't die from COVID, something else would have knocked them over. And now with this JN1, it's even more mild than the original Omicron. It's super mild. Hospitalizations and ICUs and deaths, there has been a bump throughout the world, but it's no more than other waves. Now, the reason that we know we're told, I should say, that there hasn't been this many COVID cases since the original Omicron is not because people are testing, it's because of wastewater testing. So there's our poo is in our COVID is in our poo at record levels. I saw some COVID accounts saying that it's the COVID, it's gone down to our guts now. That's why a lot of us are asymptomatic. We've all got this JN1, we don't even know it. And so, yeah, we've all just been getting on with our summer. But again, there's still people who are buying all these rat tests to find out if they're sick, even though they don't feel sick at all, even though they never tested themselves before 2020 for any respiratory illness. Katie Hopkins, my favorite British personality, summarized it well in this video.
Oh yeah, I'm off work. Yeah, sick. Yeah, I've got COVID. Yeah, how do you know? Oh, I did a test. Oh right, you did a test? Yeah, I did a test to see if I was sick, and I am, because I've got COVID. And what does that mean? Oh, that means I can stay off work for longer, because I have to protect you. I have to stay at home to save your life, because I've got COVID. Okay.
And there's still people in the Australian summer 2024 still wearing masks in the shopping centres. I mean, there's those who just wear the surgical mask. Then there's what I call the sandwich wrapper strap-on mask. Then there's the orange Daffy Duck mask. And then there's the cloth polka dot masks. And another, a local favorite of all of us, the People's Premier in New South Wales, John Bernard Kowitz. I did a sketch about people wearing masks in 2024.
My name is Stanley, and I've been wearing a mask for well over 3 years. I respect everyone in the mask wearing community because we are keeping everyone safe.
Thank you for your service.
I believe that you are selfish if you don't wear a mask.
Why I choose to wear a mask, it just makes me feel safe, and I'm ugly.
People may look at me funny because who wears a mask in 2024?
I wear masks to the grocery store, to the cinemas.
I wear a mask while I'm driving. Look at this pig. Disgusting.
I'll wear a mask while flying.
I wear it to work. And mind you, I work from home.
Thanks everyone for jumping on. Great to see everyone. Before we get started, do you mind putting on masks just for everyone's safety on the call?
On public transport, I'd even double mask. How do you live with yourself?
I've had COVID 5 times. Imagine if I wasn't wearing a mask.
Hey Gary, how are the kids?
What's that? Sorry?
I said, how are the kids?
I can't hear you.
You're a hero.
No, you're a hero.
No, we are heroes.
We're doing our part.
Exactly. Take care of yourself.
You too.
Get that booster.
Now, last week, we had our Victorian new Chief Health Officer, Claire Looker, do a publicity blitz about JN1 up in New South Wales. Old Kerry Chant, she came out and said, oh, well, you're allowed to go out now if you're COVID positive, but if you go to the shops, please wear a mask. We had our Chief Medical Officer at the Commonwealth level, Paul Kelly, do an interview with the ABC and talked about how, well, the at-risk group, the over 75s, they're not taking up the new booster, the updated XB COVID booster. Now, despite that being the old variant, apparently it works well against JN1, but all the other vaccines before that don't work. So isn't there going to be another variant like 6 months that we're all supposed to be scared of, and then the current boosters won't work anyway? And this is a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, not even the elderly and vulnerable getting the COVID boosters. And this is another funny sketch by Katie Hopkins outside an empty COVID vaccine drive-through in the UK.
Well, would you look at this? I am disgusted. Look, it's a drive-through vaccination centre. Lovely people trying to get the booster into people's arms because the government ordered too many of them, and if we don't get them into people's arms, we don't get paid. Trying to save the nation, and what do we have? Conspiracy theorists and anti-vaxxers doing this sort of thing, pulling this sort of stunt. You see it? You see it? Do you want fries with that? This is no laughing matter. This may be a drive-through, but it is not a McDonald's. It is for the booster. And people tell me all the time, if I hadn't had my 450 boosters, the COVID I got 4 times would have been so much worse. You know, this is a sort of... I just heard one of them, the morons, go up to the pull-in and ask if there was any Happy Meals available. This is not a laughing matter, and we need to clamp down on conspiracy theorists and anti-vaxxers who think this sort of thing is a joke. Do you want fries with that?
Oh gosh, she's so funny, and she was allowed back on Twitter X last year. So she post these sketches and other vlogs to Twitter X now. On YouTube, her TNT radio show is reposted on the Katie Hopkins World YouTube channel. And when she throws to commercial, she has this catch cry: if you don't come back after the break, I will hunt you down and break your legs. I should have a slogan at the end of this show: if you don't come and watch the next live show, then I'll hunt you down and sort you out. Now, a lot of people are asking me why you're still doing the COVID coverage, and the reason why is because these people they ruined and controlled our lives for the best part of 2 years, and now they have lost and have been losing for 2 years. And so it's important to laugh at them. You thought that you would control our lives forever, that we'd be in a permanent biomedical security state. That we're all back to normal now. But it could be that the globalists, they're cooking up another pandemic, because remember Event 201, the pandemic simulation in December 2019. Well, at Davos, at the World Economic Forum, they are beginning planning for disease X, and apparently already preparing for a vaccine for it. How can you prepare for a vaccine for a disease that you don't even know it exists? And so, with fresh warnings from the World Health Organization that an unknown disease X could result in 20 times more fatalities, that's just a figure that they pulled out of their ass. Than the coronavirus pandemic. What novel efforts are needed to prepare healthcare systems for the multiple challenges ahead? This session is linked to the Partnership for Health System Sustainability and Resilience at the Collaborative Surveillance Initiative of the World Economic Forum. So we shall see. They've been trying to scare us last year about bird flu, then late last year in the UK, swine flu, that mystery childhood pneumonia in China, which was not a mystery, it was mycoplasma pneumonia, the new the more deadly monkeypox in the People's Democratic Republic of the Congo. So we don't know that if they're cooking something up in another gain of function lab somewhere in China. Now, we do have our COVID inquiry in Australia this year, and it was very refreshing to see former Chief Medical Officer, Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Nick Coatsworth, say that we shouldn't, in the next pandemic, we shouldn't use draconian restrictions again, and the state should be stripped of their health pandemic powers. Dr. Nick Coatsworth, he also filled in for Carl Stefanovic on the Today Show during the summer, and because this tweet of his went viral, every storm this summer in our suburb in Canberra has receded the Bureau text warning by at least 5 minutes. Murray Watt, the whole country knows the bomb is behind the 8 ball. Yes, the flood affected communities of North Queensland and the Gold Coast, they got a bomb alert after they'd been besieged by floodwaters. I mean, if they spent less time trying to do computer models about what the climate's going to be and doctoring past temperatures to make them cooler, so you can claim that last year was the hottest day on record, perhaps you could, predict what it's going to be in maybe a week instead of in 50 plus years. Obviously, global boiling last summer, that was the big scare. Though, as I open the show, it hasn't eventuated. But don't worry, there's still February. We know that Anthony Albanese and his emergency management minister Murray Watt are on standby for bushfires. So fingers crossed that we have a sunny, warm summer without the bushfires. Now, going back to those people who still wear masks, the pro-Palestinian activists in San Francisco, they still wear masks. This is them celebrating after the San Francisco Board of Supervisors voted in favor of a ceasefire, which is just virtue signaling. Have you ever seen a room full of mentally ill liberal freaks in your life? I mean, that was basically they're a parody of themselves. Now, I mentioned the pro-Palestinian disruptors we had at Carols by Candlelight and at Chadstone Boxing Day. In the US cities of New York and Seattle, they actually block highways. I mean, Ron DeSantis, he passed a law in Florida that made it legal to run over protesters who blocked the highway. That was struck down by the federal court, but that should be a law nationwide. If you fuck around and decide to protest on a highway where cars and trucks have the right of way, well, you shouldn't be surprised if cars run you over and you're that brain dead that you're prepared to just get hit by a car or a truck for your cause. I mean, they are pretty brain dead, these people. Now, Israel over the Christmas and New Year period have continued their bombing and ground operations in Gaza, vowing to Netanyahu has vowed to finish the job. They're never going to remove Hamas, and if they are removed, the Palestinian people they probably rally around an even more extreme group than Hamas, because they do have majority support in the Gaza Strip, and 75% of Gazans thought the October 7 atrocities in southern Israel were justified. Now, since October 7, there has been the Red Sea shipping crisis, where Yemeni Houthi rebels have hijacked commercial ships, which they deem have an Israeli connection, even though a lot of them don't. They claim that there's some Israeli shareholder somewhere. They have vowed to keep going with this piracy until medical and food supplies are properly make it into the Gaza Strip, because both Egypt and Israel are only allowing limited trucks there. And so what has the US and UK decided to do in response to this? Well, bomb Yemen, because most of Yemen is controlled by the Houthi rebels. They're called Iranian backed. This is because there was an 8-year civil war in Yemen between the Saudi backed government and the Houthi Shia Iranian backed rebels. And the effect of this Saudi blockade of Yemen, which the United States funded. Obama started it in 2015. Trump continued it. Biden finally ended it in 2022. And given that the United States backed the starving of the Yemeni people and children for 7 years, it's not surprising that they didn't automatically thank the United States. Thanks for not starving us anymore. United States saying, "Oh, we're cool, right?" No, it just put them into the Houthis. It made the Yemeni people rally around the Houthis more, and of course, the US claims that they have crippled the Houthis' offensive capabilities, but that is only minimally. This is according to antiwar.com. US officials tells the New York Times that the Houthis have a lot of weapons that are mobile and easy to hide. So does that mean the US and the UK, they will start also bombing civilians in Yemen? I mean, the Houthis, they're not going to stop. They'll double down. And now they're vowing to attack U.S. Navy vessels, and of course, the Red Sea crisis. It's a vital shipping lane. A lot of commercial ships are going the long way around Africa, and so that'll add on goods. And Dawn Browning, you're right that there is trouble. CFMEU strikes, industrial action again at Australian ports. They're always blockading, refusing to undo those shipping containers. And so there is Dirt McGurdo says, But why don't we say the USA-backed Ukrainians or USA-backed Iranians? Media biased language, perhaps. Well, I just said US-backed Saudi blockade. And yes, the USA, they backed the Ukrainian coup against the democratically elected pro-Russia president in 2014, the Euromaidan revolution that was spearheaded by Victoria Nuland, the US Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs. And even though the US is sort of they're being a bit sterner with Israel, you can't just keep doing this. They're still obviously funding a lot of Israeli military operations. Now, over in The Hague, in the International Court of Justice, which is the UN's court. It's not the International Criminal Court, which is also in The Hague in the Netherlands. South Africa has initiated proceedings in the International Court of Justice accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza. The irony of South Africa launching this case, given that they're genociding the white farmers. I mean, you know, they're not exactly the most, the pinnacle of the respecter of human rights and racial harmony. I mean, they're still being brutally murdered in South Africa. The white farmers, anti-white racism is rampant. The African National Congress, well, it's a black communist party, and the Economic Freedom Fighters, that is that's a anti-white genocidal party. So yes, pot calling the kettle black, but they obviously Sky News, or it should be called Zio News, because they just talk about Israel and the Middle East. Obviously they're supportive of the Yemeni airstrikes. So is Talk TV in the UK, though there are a lot of prominent voices saying, hey, we were never asked whether we wanted to go to war with Yemen, a country that we've already brutalized. Our governments have already brutalized, which has been funded by our tax dollars. The US Congress has to declare war. That hasn't happened. That's been unilaterally by the Biden administration. And this was the scene in the capital of Yemen, Sana'a. And Yemen is a country, I should say, of 34.5 million people. Now, the pro-Palestinian protests in the West, they're now pro-Palestinian and pro-Yemen protests. So I don't know where all of these activists all of a sudden got their Yemeni flags from. I don't think it was at a local retailer, but they performed an insurrection outside the White House, shaking the White House gates, and staff had to be evacuated to the underground. Now, over in the US, to bring in the new year, finally, the names that were listed in the Jeffrey Epstein lawsuits were revealed. Well, most of them. Some John Does are yet to be revealed. Now, a lot of names were not surprising in those documents. Obviously, Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, but the surprising name was Stephen Hawking, who of course was the scientist discovering the black hole theory, and of course had motor neuron disease, and so he couldn't even communicate with his hands. It was with his eyeballs. So people were wondering if he went to Epstein's Island for sexual gratification, how did that work? Because if his entire body is immobile, then obviously his penis wouldn't work. And it's important for you to deep dive into the actual documents, for yourself, so you don't fall for fake memes like this was put out by one of my favorite Twitter X meme account, Drift Funds or Memes, who put out this that said, "Wait, are you telling me that Stephen Hawking frequented the island for pleasure?" Yes, Jeffrey loved to have intellectuals visit the island so he could reward them for their hard work for humanity and for other darker reasons. Did Jeffrey ever talk to you about Stephen Hawking's proclivities? Yes, you like watching undressed midgets solve complex equations on too high up chalkboards. That never happened. That is an excellent fake troll meme by Defensive Memes, who also does excellent satirical deep fakes. Now, in my opinion, deep fake AIs are used for the right reasons, for hilarious political satire. He did this one, Bill Clinton addressing his name on the Epstein flight logs.
My fellow Americans, today you may be waiting for the highly anticipated Epstein client list to be released. So while I know you may see what appears to be my name on the list, I'd like to argue that I did not have sexual relations with those children on that island. Would it even count, though? It wasn't in the United States. Also, if you add up their ages, I'm sure it was above 18. Jeff told me since it was outside of the jurisdiction.
Bill, what the hell are you doing?
No, Hillary, I'm not confessing.
You idiot. Do I always have to clean up your mess?
What are you doing? What? No, wait. Please don't hurt the cameraman. He had nothing to do with this. No, Hillary, that was my friend. He wasn't a witness.
That's so funny. Even though that was a deep fake of Bill and Hillary, the laugh of Hillary's was real. That's how she laughed after she said about Gaddafi, "We came, we saw, he died." And also forgot to Pale Conservative Australian mention Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, who got him that sweetheart plea deal for child sex trafficking in 2008. Also on his island, Alan Dershowitz, who he was on that Jeffrey Epstein Filthy Rich documentary. Because Alan Dershowitz loves the limelight, even when he's being accused of being a pedophile and covering up for a pedophile. And of course, Epstein was Mossad. It was going around the hashtag Epstein didn't employ himself, which is a play on Epstein didn't kill himself. He and his girlfriend, Madame Bakura, Ghislaine Maxwell, ran a Mossad blackmail operation that's been confirmed by ex-Israeli intelligence agents. And of course, Ghislaine Maxwell, her father, Robert Maxwell, was a double agent for both British intelligence and for Israeli intelligence, Mossad. He was an absolute scumbag, bully, one of the worst people. He was a media mogul back in the 80s. He'd also been a Labor MP, owned the Daily Mirror, which was going broke, and so he stole from the pension funds of the Daily Mirror workers before his empire went bust. His foreign editor was running weapons over in the Middle East, and because Robert Maxwell sued anyone who was critical of him, it took George Galloway, the former Labor MP, to air these allegations in parliamentary privilege, which meant that the media could report on them with fear of being sued by Maxwell. And that was pretty much the end of his empire. And he mysteriously fell off his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, in 1991, which it was ruled maybe a suicide, or he got drunk and fell off his yacht. He was found off the Caribbean, found naked, which that would have been gross. He was a big, fat, ugly man. And so the James Bond movie Tomorrow Never Dies, which is Pierce Brosnan Bond film, Jonathan Bryce plays Elliot Carver, a media mogul who's trying to start a war between Britain and China to get exclusive satellite media coverage in China for 100 years. People think that he's based on Rupert Murdoch, but he was based on Robert Maxwell, because there was a scene at the end when Elliot Carver is killed by Bond, M says to Moneypenny, plant a story in the newspapers that Elliot Carver fell off his yacht in the South China Sea. Say it was a suicide. Again, this is predictive, you could say predictive programming, like the Obamas Leave the World Behind technology apocalypse movie that is on Netflix with Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke. By coincidence, this year, all of the tech billionaires, Zuckerberg, Bezos, they're all building these bunkers, which in Leave the World Behind, just luckily, the main characters are on at a holiday home in the Hamptons, away from the chaos of New York. Robert Maxwell was Jewish. Well, that goes without saying, of course. Now, where are we at? We're going to go to overtime, because obviously this is the first show back. There's a lot to cover in the first 15 days of 2024. But how about those Orthodox Jews who emerged from the sewers in New York? They were tunneling underneath the Hasidic Orthodox Jewish synagogue in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. So the Shibad Legovic Hasistic movement, it is being called, and this was the front page of the New York Post, a Murdoch tabloid in New York. So they did survey. Chabad boys spark holy war by digging tunnel under Brooklyn synagogue. Now it was actually the other members of the synagogue who ratted them out. So 9 were arrested, and they were violent when the NYPD turned up to fill the holes, because it was affecting the foundations of buildings in other parts of Manhattan. Now, the synagogue, the other synagogue members called them extremists, and they're being charged with using migrant labor to build this tunnel. Now, according to independent fact checkers like USA Today, the footage from the synagogue, which has the soiled mattresses being taken away, apparently the NYPD didn't find any soiled mattresses or a baby high chairs there. So that is just anti-Semitic fake news, according to USA Today and Jonathan Greenblatt of the Anti-Defamation Commission. Though we shall see if there's some classifieds in New York Times or the New York Post that says, woohoo, the Chablis Lavid Hazistic synagogue is giving away 50 soiled mattresses. That's obviously a reference from The Simpsons, where Homer Simpson is excited that the hospital is giving away 50 soiled mattresses. Now, what for these tunnels for? According to the other members of the Hasidic sect who dobbed them into the NYPD, they were expanding it because they believe that the former chief rabbi of the temple, who died in 1994, was the Messiah. So that's why they wanted to expand. Now, there's obviously this is just in New York, and they were violent and arrested when the NYPD showed up, and there is a lot of Orthodox Jewish settler violence against Palestinians in the West Bank. Labour MP Julian Hill today said that Australians should be banned from funding settler settlements in the West Bank, which is I don't know. And the Israeli government turns a blind eye to these expanding settlements, which is a whole other conflict in the Arab-Israeli conflict. Paleoconservative Australian De Vere would classify that as hate speech as well, Tim. Well, the New York Post, they were on a roll with Jewish puns, because there was a lesbian couple who, after October 7, didn't want to accept a sperm donor because of he was Jewish, and so the headline was anti-Semitism. Surrogate lesbian couple drop donor because he's Jewish. So, yeah, I'm surprised that the New York Post got away with Subway, given that Old Vey is considered an anti-Semitic online phrase now as well. And when I saw this, the Hasidic Jews, they wear the big hats, so they're nicknamed the big hats, while the other Jews are called the small hats. Like, when they popped out of the sewer, I thought that was a sketch. Like, that's some sort of sketch to make Jews look bad and spread anti-Semitism, but it was actually real, this bizarre thing. And thankfully they have been arrested, these Hasidic Jewish extremists, for threatening the stability of buildings. So obviously, there's a lot of people who don't believe the official reasons for the tunnels. Could they be dug so that Hasidic Jews, if there was another pandemic and lockdown, they could sneak to and from synagogue? Because remember, the Orthodox Jews in Melbourne had to flee from Victoria Police on the roof. And could they be dug for more nefarious, sinister, disturbing reasons, such as organized crime or even child sex trafficking? But the USA Today has said, no, that's all anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and there were no soiled mattresses. So there you have it. Case closed. Move along. There's nothing to see here. Though nobody's been able to say, these fact checkers, where that footage of the soiled mattresses being pulled from the walls there came from. So we still don't. Where did that come from? I mean, we need to, like, we're told it's not from that synagogue. Where did it come from? Anyway, we are over an hour and a half. Probably we'll go for 2, but getting through to the end. So Tucker Carlson, he has formally set up the Tucker Carlson Network, a subscription service now, where you just go to tuckercarlson.com. I'll bring it up now. Now, this was always in the works. It's called the Tucker Carlson Network to begin with because, well, he's the main personality, but it'll probably change its name eventually when he diversifies and has more hosts. Now, the pricing is in US dollars, so it's $6 per month if you sign up annually. $9 per month. So he divided his audience by interviewing Kevin Spacey just before Christmas in character as Frank Underwood, the president from House of Cards that he played on Netflix. Now, Kevin Spacey he has been found not guilty of every criminal and civil case, even the one brought by his original accuser, Anthony Rapp. It was a civil case in New York, who accused him of trying to rape him when he was 14 and Spacey was 26. So obviously there were those 4 Spacey accusers who mysteriously died, and Kevin Spacey released that Christmas message about killing people with kindness. But it was Douglas Murray who decided to formally uncancel Kevin Spacey and declare him a victim of Me Too and conservative free speech warrior at the Sir Roger Scruton lecture. And now Tucker Carlson's interviewed him as in character. You see Frank Underwood say, "There would be no Netflix if it wasn't for me." And Tucker Carlson said, "Oh, they tried to kill you." Obviously, killed him off in the final season. Though, of course, Kevin Spacey, it can't be denied that he's a deviant degenerate. I mean, he did play around on the English throne with Ghislaine Maxwell in London. Obviously, Prince Andrew let them in. Douglas Murray, I think he went back to the UK for a bit to fill in for Piers Morgan over Christmas. Michael Kroger, the former Victorian Liberal president, he's over in Israel at the moment, as is our Foreign Minister Penny Wong, though she's been criticised by the Liberals because she's not going to the October 7 massacre sites, because basically the Liberal Party here is Israel first now, not Australia first, and they can't be trusted on to curtail mass immigration as well. They'll just lie to us as well. Over in the US, mass illegal immigration is the reason why Trump is not just ahead in the US Republican primaries, which start tomorrow with the Iowa caucuses, but also in front of Biden. A head-to-head 2020 rematch, because the sanctuary cities are being overrun because, well, Biden, he is not enforcing the border, and mainly Texas Governor Greg Abbott is shipping them to sanctuary cities. You say you're a sanctuary city? Here you go. And so New York school children, they missed several days of school because their school was used to house illegal migrants. New York, Chicago, they're the main 2 cities being overrun. Mayor Eric Adams is saying the city will be changed forever. But a lot of Democrats, they claim that we still need all these illegal immigrants to be our servant class, which is, well, in terms of doing low-paying jobs and also, well, voting for them as well when it comes to election time. Because have you seen this graphic? I think I've got it here. Democrat minus Republican voter margins by racial group. So whites still vote more Republican but Democrat. Black, it's 80% more vote Democrat. Latino, Hispanic, it is. And this is broken up by 2016, 2020, not much has changed. There's more Latinos and Hispanics now, 38%, 33%, and Asians are 27% net for the Democrats. This is Jerry Nadler. Remember, he's the New York Democrat congressman who shot himself during a press conference talking about why illegal immigration is so important for the United States.
And we need immigrants in this country. Forget the fact that the farm, that our vegetables would rot in the ground if they weren't being picked by many immigrants, many illegal immigrants. The fact is that the birth rate in this country is way below replacement level, which means our population is going to start shrinking. And the ratio of people on Social Security and Medicare is going to increase relative to the number of people supporting them.
And this reminds me of something that Nancy Pelosi, or as I call her, Nasty Pelosi, said last year. It's basically Democrats in the, it's the 21st century equivalent of saying, but who will pick our cotton and tobacco in the fields?
The fact is that we have a responsibility to secure our border. We also have a responsibility to recognize the importance of newcomers to our nation. Right now, the best thing that we can do for our economy is to have comprehensive immigration reform. We have a shortage of workers in our country, and you see even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops down here. But that doesn't mean that we don't recognize our moral responsibility as well. When the president, the former, occasional occupant of the White House.
I think she means the occasional occupant of the White House, President Joe Biden, who he has that permanent look of senility on his face now. When he's out and about. I mean, there was that disturbing scene where he wanted to sniff the hair, it looked, of that teenage girl in the coffee shop. He has that permanent look of dementia on his face almost at every press conference now. I mean, Trump is only 4 years younger, but he's got his full mental capabilities. Now, in the Iowa caucuses tomorrow, now the Democrats canceled their Iowa caucus. It's going to be mail-in because they didn't believe that Iowa was diverse enough to have their first primary. So there's only 4 left in the race. Obviously, Donald Trump, Governor of Florida Ron DeSantis, and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, and businessman Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy was excluded from the latest CNN debate. So it was just Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. Chris Christie, or Chris Krispy Kreme, as Mark Dice refers to him, dropped out and was caught on hot mic saying that Nikki Haley is going to be smoked. Neocon Nikki. Rand Paul has launched the Never Nikki movement, which we should all get behind. She constantly flip-flops. She's basically a brown Republican version of Hillary Clinton. There's this good graphic going around. Haley, and that's the Hillary logo from 2016 there. So obviously, Joe Biden, they've rigged the primary system, the Democrats, so Joe Biden will win the nomination, though there is all this talk about break class in case of emergency. So Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is seen as an emergency candidate. Kamala Harris, though, she is seen as the natural successor because she is a vice president and also a woman of color. But the outside emergency candidate is Michelle Obama, because she went on a podcast talking about she feared, who that Donald Trump would get back into the White House. And now, if Michelle Obama did run, she'd have to address once and for all the allegations that she was born Michael Obama, that she still has a penis, nicknamed Big Mike. Just have to address those once and for all. And if the Obamas had anything to do with the death of Joan Rivers for calling Michelle Obama a tranny, and that we all know that that's the case. And Donald Trump, he decided to attack Vivek over on Truth Social. So this is what he said. Vivek started his campaign as a great supporter, the best president in generations. Unfortunately, now all he does is disguise his support in the form of deceitful campaign tricks. Very sly, but a vote for Vivek is a vote for the other side. Don't get duped by this. Vote for Trump. Don't waste your vote on Vivek. Vivek is not MAGA. The Biden indictments against his political opponent will never be allowed in this country. They're already beginning to fail MAGA. Trump is, of course, in and outside of court on all of those trumped-up charges in Georgia, Washington, and New York. They're wanting to save democracy by excluding him from democracy. I mean, they had their annual cry over January 6th. It's worse than Pearl Harbor, the Civil War, and 9/11 combined. I mean, this tweet from Ultra MAGA Joyce Lady summed up the ridiculous comparisons of January 6th with 9/11, which of course was done by Saudi Arabia. Said, my mother's remains are in that cloud of dust. No, January 6th was not worse than 9/11. The only murder that occurred on January 6th was of a Trump supporter, Ashley Babbitt, a war veteran who was shot in cold blood. Now, the UK also has a general election due later this year. It has to be held before the end of the year. Rishi Sunak, the unelected Conservative Prime Minister, he gets to decide when the election date is. He will probably try to hold on for as long as possible because he is not going to turn around the Conservatives' catastrophic position in the polls. I mean, the Labour Party under the leadership of Sir Keir Starmer is roughly 20 points ahead. The Conservatives, they're trying to save the furniture by attacking attacking the Reform Party. If you're thinking of voting for the Reform Party, which is the successor to the Brexit Party, Nigel Farage is the president, Richard Tice is the party leader. If you vote for a reform, it's a vote for Labour and Sir Keir Starmer. Though both Nigel Farage and Richard Tice, they went on the chief conservative stooge TV show, Mark Dolan, on GB News, and they told him that you need to punish failure, and the Conservatives have they're a government that has failed the British people, have repeatedly lied to them. They haven't stopped the boats. They haven't cut immigration. They haven't the grooming gangs, the sexual assaults on British girls are still continuing. The woke agenda hasn't been rolled back. There's still people being arrested for misgendering on social media by the police. And so Nigel Farage and Richard Tice, they're absolutely right to say that the Conservatives need to be punished, and that actually the Conservatives should stand aside for reform, because we've got conservative values. If you want to vote for woke progressive policies, vote for the Conservatives. And Rishi Sunak was over in addressing the Ukrainian parliament with Vladimir Zelensky, brought a British Union Jack. Rishi Sunak, he's also got the nickname now Roland Rat, who's this who was this puppet on British television in the 80s. You can see the resemblance there between Rishi Sunak and Roland Rat. And there's this meme that was circulating after his trip to Ukraine. Rishi Sunak is a rat-faced cunt. I mean, he's certainly rat fucking the British people, and the sooner him and the useless Conservative government voted out, the better. There is another by-election triggered by the resignation of a Conservative MP, Peter Bone, after he was suspended from the House of Commons for 6 weeks for allegedly showing his boner to a former aide in a hotel room in Madrid many years ago. His partner, Helen Harrison, is running for his seat of Willingborough, which is going to be held on the 15th of February. And I reckon that Labor or the Lib Dems will win that. Peter Bone, another unfortunate name, like the former Conservative MP Chris Pincher, who was pinching men on the bottom. And then Matt Hancock, who's still in Parliament, the former Health Secretary, who he was being handy with his cock with his staffer during lockdown. Isn't Sunak a US citizen? He gave up his green card, though his wife is a Indian heiress, non-citizen. So if he makes Britain broke, then he'll always have one reliable source of funds. You can certainly, he's a global citizen. That's for sure. Now, the other major election is the London mayoral election on the 2nd of May. Labour Sadiq Khan up against Conservative Susan Hall, who is only pledging to roll back Sadiq Khan's unpopular ULEZ expansion to all of Greater London. So if you have a car which is deemed high emission, it costs you £12.50 every day to just drive through London. And another sketch of Katie Hopkins is calling the ULEZ vigilantes, the Blade Runners, disgusting. Pure vandalism, using ankle grinders and filling foam from Toolstation to vandalize these cameras. It's absolutely disgusting law breaking. But ULEZ, the original just around the city centre, that was originally a proposal of Boris Johnson, but Sadiq Khan, being the globalist that an anti-car, anti-liberty person that he is, decided to expand it to the whole of London and roll out 20 mile per hour low traffic neighborhoods as well. There was a interesting data that was released that British height, the height of British people, is declining, and that could be because of the mass Indian migration to to Britain over the past 50 years and from other subcontinent nation. I mean, both Rishi Sunak and Sadiq Khan, who is Pakistani, they are both nipple height, as it is being referred. Have you seen Rishi Sunak next to David Cameron? He literally is at David Cameron's nipples. I mean, he does look like the size of a rat compared to David Cameron, who, of course, licking his lips at another Middle East war in Yemen. Now, I've only got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to junk the rest of the other global news. I'll cover that next week. But what I do want to cover is give a shout out to former Premier League footballer Joey Barton, who on Twitter X, where he has 2.8 million followers, has called out the atrocious female football commentators commenting on the men's game on ITV. So that is their names are, I should say, Lucy Ward and Enai Akalu. So how is she even talking about football? She can't even kick a ball properly. Your coverage of the game, English Football Championship last night, took it to a new low. They are the Fred and Rose West of football commentary, and this got ITV very upset. They put out a statement that said, for Joey Barton, an ex-professional player with significant social media presence, to target two of our pundits, Enai Akulu and Lucy Ward, with such vindictive remarks based on gender, to invoke the names of serial killers in doing so is clearly shameful, contemptible, and shameful on his part. Football is for everyone. And that was retweeted by a ITV and Sky Sport commentator Gary Neville, former Manchester United player, said this has gone too far. Now, is Joey Barton, because he's not against female football commentators, period, but believes that they're just there on tokenism, is what he believes. And so this is one of the female commentators that he said is useless. Enai Aludo. This is her football takes.
You know, he's got a great record, 19 goals in 40 appearances. You know, do the math on that. It's one goal a game, pretty much.
In terms of the penalty, you know, I think she's done everything right, but maybe hit it a bit too clean, and she'll be bitterly disappointed tomorrow.
I think there's a lot of cat and mouse going on here. As a sporting director, I used to do this a lot. So I used to call up a club, big club, and say, right, can you put in a bid in? And that would get my owner to basically put a higher bid in. It's a bit like an auction, isn't it? I don't think Manchester City actually want to sign Declan Rice. I think what's going on here is Arteta's picked up the phone to Pep, said, listen, you know, Arsenal are going to do the sort of incremental bid approach. If you put a higher bid in, that will push my owner to... I think there's a bit of that going on here.
I mean, she's just a depository of football wisdom there. I mean, look at her math. 19 goals in 40 games. That's a goal a game. And now Joey Barton, he's had a reputation both on and off the pitch as a hothead. He was regularly red carded on the field for violent conduct, and served a 74-day prison sentence in 2008 for common assault and affray in Liverpool. His Manchester City career ended when he physically assaulted a teammate at training. He then went on to play for Newcastle United and then Queen's Park Rangers. What did end his career is that he was found to have betted on football matches. He got an 18-month ban, which at the age of 35 ended his career. Though Joe Barton's defense has always been, the other person provoked me, they started it. Though he always responds with like more force than the other person begins on him. So yeah, he's never been able to all the years have a cool head and not lash out. But the reason why he's got 2.8 million Twitter followers is because he is an intellectual. When you hear him speak, he has this Merseyside accent. He is very well spoken, and he does have he does take a big interest in public affairs. He's being smeared. It was called far right, even though he has diverse political views. I mean, he supports the NHS. He supports LGB, but without the T. Now, Gary Neville, his response to Gary Neville, who's a lefty. I mean, all ex-Manchester United players are, because Sir Alex Ferguson was a massive lefty. He said, "Gary, please keep your head down or you will get emptied as well. I know they pay your wages, but I don't have to want to put you away. Worry about one of the other 3758 business things you've got going on. I'll decide when it's gone too far, not you." And he also said to ITV, "Is this the same ITV football that tried to cover up Philip Schofield grooming and then bumming an underage boy, asking for a friend?" Now, he went on, as I said, Piers Morgan's program, and the panel afterwards featured Pearl Davis and a couple of other female journalists. He went on Pearl Davis's Pearly Things channel, and Joe Barton's also launching his own podcast, Common Sense. Now, he was invited on Jeremy Vine's Vine on 5 program. Now, you may remember Jeremy Vine. He was he hosts BBC Radio 2 Lunchtime and Live on 5, which is Vine on 5, which is Channel 5. It's a commercial network. Now, invited Jeremy Vine. Jeremy Vine's producer invited Joe Barton on after Jeremy Vine tweeted this: "What's going on with Joe Barton? I just glanced at the Rose West thing and then at the Gary Neville spat." Then his attack on Philip Schofield, and the ITV reply: "Generally, is it possible we're dealing with a brain injury here?" And so when Jeremy Vine's producer emailed him, he posted it on Twitter here and said that, "Jeremy, stop gaslighting, mate. Just because I keep knocking you back to come on your shite program, grow your audience and I'll come on and hand your ass to you live on air." And Joey Barton, he's started the hashtag with Jeremy Vine, bike nonce, because Jeremy Vine is the most annoying cyclist that you could possibly imagine. I mean, he has a camera on his head when he cycles, and abuses lorry drivers who don't give way to him, because cyclists are supposed to have the right of way. Even when the lorries turned, like lorries are long, they've already turned when he's approaching it. And he, as well as getting Alex Belfield 5 years in prison for allegedly stalking and harassing him, when all Alex Belfield did was send him emails asking him things, Alex Belfield was accused of inciting hate on Jeremy Vine. Jeremy Vine cried at the Alex Belfield's trial and called in the Jimmy Savile of trolling. Jeremy Vine, he's an annoying cyclist. He was also 100% for the COVID agenda and the vax mandates. So now the hashtag bike nonce. For those of you who are not British and don't know what the term nonce means, it is British slang for child molester or pedophile, or as they pronounce, paedophile. The term nonce, it was popularized by the psychic character Clinton Baptiste, who was a psychic on the Phoenix Nights sitcom in the 2000s. Peter Kay did a live tour as Clinton Baptiste. So he's the opposite of John Edward, because he tells people what he doesn't want to hear. He walks up to this big, bald, mean-looking guy and says, "I'm getting the word nonce." Now, I'm not aware of any accusations against Jeremy Vine. Maybe we'll get Clinton Baptiste to do a reading on Jeremy Vine, but he is a vile person. He got a car driver 9 months in prison for a spat on the road. I mean, cyclists in the UK, they spend half their time abusing lorry drivers. I mean, I think a lot of us hope that a lorry drivers are national heroes. They make it obviously the farmers. They are the ones, they are their first heroes, and then the lorry drivers who get the produce and the food to market. I certainly hope that a lorry driver accidentally poleaxes Jeremy Vine on his bike, and his skin is all over the bitumen. And yes, he is just wailing there, just in his flesh there. That's how vile Jeremy Vine is. Obviously, I'm not inciting anything. I just, I would laugh if such a lorry accident was to happen to Jeremy Vine. Now, this is Jeremy Vine getting his COVID vaccine back in 2021.
Mask on. I'm almost wanting to run in because it's so exciting, because finally, protection against COVID. Here we go.
Okay, that's all done.
You're joking.
No.
So I'm in bed with COVID.
Now, he's a Vine on 5. He accepts call-ins, and the public opinion of Jeremy Vine, because there's people who hate him without Alex Belfield and Joey Barton publicly expressing their hatred. I mean, it could just be that Jeremy Vine, lots of people just hate you. So this was a caller, Tim from Lancashire.
You're a cunt.
Joey Barton tweeted, "Yes, that wasn't me." Anyway, that's it. I've gone for over 2 hours now. So that's the premiere of Tim's News Explosion for 2024. I will get to broader European developments and also some New Zealand news on next week's Tim's News Explosion. Now, as I said earlier, my guest on Wilmsfront this Sunday, 9 p.m. Don't forget to tune in. Click the bell to allow for notifications. Give a thumbs up, like, comment below. Will be Ben Shan, the Dusty Bogan Christian Lobby, to discuss the Australia Month campaign. And so make sure that you tune in for that. I'll be recording fresh reports from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft later this week. Now, as I have been mentioning, he is now a regular on Sam Newman's "You Cannot Be Serious" podcast as a panelist. Sam as a rotating panelist since his co-host Don Scott quit. And also Richard will be at the Australia Day event at Doncaster Bowling Club, which Damien Richardson, a former actor and freedom activist, is promoting. So it's $25 per ticket at Try Booking. They only accept credit card, PayPal, and GPay. Doncaster Bowling Club. So 11 a.m. for a 12 p.m. start. I'll be there. Andy Notch will be there. It's outside of the CBD no-go zone, but given what happened in Doncaster with that deadly home invasion, we should certainly be careful, though the bowling club should be pretty secure there. Now, remember, if you want to support the work of the Unshackled, you can take out a premium membership, which per month is $5 per month, silver $10 per month, gold $25 per month, platinum $50 per month. And you can also take out a yearly subscription. So that's the unshackled.net/membership. And also, I will put the link to the Australia Day celebration on Try Booking in the chat as well. Now, my weekly Wilms reports on New Zealand's reality check radio with Paul Brennan on breakfast. They will return in February, as will The Theorist with Andy Nolch at Tuesdays 9 p.m. on The Theorist YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble channel. So the full archive is available on Odyssey and Rumble of The Theorist, because YouTube took down so many episodes. And of course, all of the Wilmsfront and other Unshackled productions are backed up on Odyssey and Rumble. I'll upload the replay to Rumble. You could be watching it there. So that is all. So happy Australia Month, and I will bring you more news next week. I'm still catching up because I've been away for 3 weeks. So stay safe, stay cool, and I will see you on Sunday for Wilmsfront. Don't forget.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.